Hey, Pepin.
Yo, yo.
You know, I've been thinking a lot about my favorite subject, me.
Again?
Yeah, and I've been thinking about how much of a legend I am and how my name is just going to carry on for generations.
God, man, you are a little narcissistic.
But, you know, sometimes I for some reason, I get to thinking, and I think about you, and I feel bad because, like, nobody's going to know your story.
Well, does anybody know my story now? I mean, let's be honest.
That's a really good point. I think that it would be great if there was somebody who could help capture your story and present it to your children and their children and kind of give your life lessons out to the world.
That actually sounds like a really good idea. I mean, I think that's something we need to talk about.
Welcome back. So glad you guys could join us. I am here once again in the new and improved Nate's room. How's it going, Nate?
It's kind of the same. Oh, actually, he's got these wall panels now.
It does. It has some soundproofing in here, kind of tacked up. And, it looks professional, so that means you're a professional.
Yeah, that's how it works, I think.
That's definitely how it works. Appearance is 99% of the battle. We teased this in the opening, but I'm really excited today because we have on two very special guests, the co-founders of a new business that I think is going to revolutionize things and really have a solid impact on the world. It's a company called Life Capsule, and we do have with us here today Amy and Angie. How's it going, girls?
Pretty good.
Hi. It's great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm so happy you guys were able to make it on today and talk about what you guys are doing. Would you be willing to give a kind of a general overview about what you guys do?
Sure. So, as you said, we're Life Capsule Productions, and we're currently based in Seattle, Washington. And what we do is we create interview-style documentaries for elders to capture their stories and their wisdom and knowledge in general to pass down throughout generations.
Wow. That's huge. How did something like that get started?
Well, it's a long, convoluted story, but Amy and I go way, way back to when we were 3 in Maine, where we met. And we've always been super creative kids, always making movies and dances and all these things. And we actually made this really blockbuster hit called Clue. Called Clue. You know the actual film Clue?
Starring Tim Curry.
Redid that. Yes. We redid that word for word, but we
with a start and stop camcorder.
Wait, where is this featured? Because I need to see this now.
Oh my God, it's so good. I keep asking my mom where it is. I know it's going to come out at the wrong time in my life. But so we made Clue, and we were like kids, so we couldn't really, like, whoever was over was the person who would play like Mrs. White. And so my Grammy was one of 5 people who played Mrs. White throughout the movie, and like it was just
I think she also played like 5 other characters as well.
Yes. And so yeah, we did Clue, we did all sorts of things. And so Grammy actually was a huge, huge part of my life and Amy's life. So, I mean, every time that Amy or Molly or Sam would come over, Amy, you want to do the thing that Grammy would say to you every single time?
Oh, my old Amy, my old Amy, my old Amy, heavens to Betsy, how's your mother? Every single time, word for word.
Yeah, she had all these quirks. She was amazing, and she was such a big part of my family's life and everyone around her. She just illuminated every room she was in, and she was so wise and funny. She was so funny. And so fast forward to like 4 years ago, I'm in Seattle now. My family's back in Maine, and I realized my Grammy has these incredible stories. She remembers every single thing and has this really remarkable sort of perspective on life, and it really centers around love. And it's just she's a huge part of my life, and so I really wanted to capture that. And so I would always come home like every 6 months, and I would get too busy and I just wouldn't do it. And then one Christmas I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to set aside at least an hour. I'm just going to film her. It's going to be super homemade. And I did. And just so happens that 4 months later, just randomly, she happened to pass away. And so it was actually a really cool gift to be able to give to our family, because she was so important to every single one of us in our family. And so, yeah, it's really nice to like look back at that video and just hear her speak and see her speak and like tell those stories, those memories that were so vivid from when we were kids. And to be able to pass that down is really special. And so then fast forward 3 more years, and then I'm volunteering at a retirement home where some of my friends work. Shout out to the Hearthstone, because they're amazing, and that's where this all started. And so my friend Amy, who works there, really facilitated this idea with me, and I was telling her about my Grammys video, and she was like, wait a minute, like this, you should do that here. The people here have such incredible stories. And that's when the light bulb went off. And so, because I'm talking to these people, these residents there that just are also remarkable and also have seen the world flip on its head, and they remember everything, and they're funny too. And so it's just, so then we started asking around and found these really incredible people that actually did want videos. And we just started and told Amy about it, and she instantly was into it and was like, wait a minute, I actually know how to edit. I know about documentary film. Like, so she was my coach and guide throughout the whole thing. And then we're now on this journey together, and it's just been a whirlwind, but it's so rewarding, and doing it with your best friend can't get better than that. So
yeah, I couldn't imagine doing this type of thing with anyone else besides Angie. Like she said, with our little projects, if that's what you want to call them, back in the day, it's like I think that was almost like practice for us for what we're doing now. And it's kind of gotten to a point where we're so, connected with each other, and we balance each other out so well, with like her being kind of the big picture, big idea person, and then me being like the anal retentive, detailed person that I am.
I think we're both anal retentive. But
yeah, in our own ways.
That's so amazing. That's like an absolutely amazing story. And what better place for a company or an idea like this to start than in your own family, passion, and working with your best friend. I mean, I can attest to working with your best friend being an amazing experience in working with Nate. But I mean, what you guys are doing, it seems like it really hits home for both of you. Like, it wasn't a question of, is this a good idea? Is this something we should do? It was a no-brainer.
Oh, it was instantaneous. When she called me, it was about 7 months ago, and she told me about this idea that she was kind of working on with her other friend, Amy, and I immediately was just like, we have to do this. Like, there's no option to not do it. Like, I can't see a future without this. So that's kind of where it happened.
Now, in college, which is where I know you from originally, Amy, you were there for journalism?
Correct. Yeah, I studied journalism and ecology.
Outstanding. And you did a lot of work with video editing. You worked with professors, professionals.
Correct. Yeah, I actually did. My capstone project was a series of 3 short documentaries on organ donation. And so that's kind of where my experience comes from, as far as, what I'm doing here.
And a capstone being the proof of everything that you've been doing in your entire college career culminating into one project.
Correct.
And you did it on documentary about something that meant something to you.
Exactly.
In a video style. So basically this exact thing.
This is actually exactly what I wanted to do when I got out of college, and I really wasn't sure how to go about doing that. And yeah, I mean, I ended up falling into a different career, and then this kind of fell in my lap, and it's just been perfect.
All of the best ideas and all of like passion in being what drives you, which clearly with you girls that is the case, is always what's going to make success happen. It has to come from passion. It can't come from wanting money or from wanting fame. It needs to come from your heart, and that seems pretty obvious with you guys. Now, Angie, you have volunteered with at nursing homes and things of that nature as well. Can you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah. So I worked at the Hearthstone, just volunteering for random events and helping out in memory care and stuff like that. And I have also worked in nursing homes, like in high school, just as a general volunteer as well. But I also just have such an affinity for older folks in general. I just love to hear their stories and to just capture all that wisdom that they have. I just think I could listen to them forever. And so doing this is really just like the perfect thing for me because I get so much out of it. And it's not just them like talking at me. It's like I'm growing from every interaction too. And it's just so interesting going back to the point of like where this passion comes from is it's so funny to look back on like our childhood and be like, because when you become an adult, you kind of don't know what you want to do, and you kind of explore different options, and you're like, maybe I'll go into this sounds interesting over here. And then thinking back, it's so funny to think like, if you just look back at what you enjoyed as a kid, that's probably what you should do as an adult, right? Like it makes so much sense now.
That's huge. I definitely agree with that. So in the process here, outside of the company, I'm sure that, you've been having conversations with an older generation and learning so much. And now you've been able to actually put that down in a way that's not just going to go away, that even outside of you can be remembered and articulated, and these people are living on in that way. You must have some amazing interviews from some amazing people. Can you speak at all about some of the people that you've interviewed and some of the amazing stories that you guys have heard?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We've had, everyone has been incredible in its own way, but there's one particular story that really just exemplifies the power of it and like the importance of it. And so it was a man named Tosh, and so I go to his room, and it's him and his wife, Fumi, and he has this, his life should be a movie, actually. So he was born in the Seattle area, born Japanese American, but born in the U.S., and then was interned at the height of World War II. And him and his whole family, his dad even went to jail. And while he was interned, he decided maybe to help my family to get free, I guess was his mentality, was for him to volunteer for the Army, the people that actually put him in an internment camp. And so he volunteers for the Army as a combat medic and goes over to Italy. And he is in combat basically and gets injured. And so the person who replaces him within about 2 days is killed. And so he just barely survives that. And he promises himself if he survives war, that he will go to New York City. He's always wanted to go to New York City. That was his forever goal. And so he actually survives, and he cannot believe it. And he goes to New York City. He sees all the Broadway shows. He just has the time of his life. And there is where he meets Fumi, the woman of his dreams. And they write back and forth for years while he's in Seattle and she's in New York. And eventually he flies her over to Seattle, and they get married, and they have this wonderful life in Seattle, and they have all these kids, and he finds the career of his dreams and as a biologist. And he, even after he retires, he continues working like basically full time for 15 more years because he loves it so much. And so then we capture his story, and we do it in 3 different segments, which I highly recommend watching because each one is so captivating, and Amy did a killer job on editing them and adding all this really interesting B-roll, and it's really, really powerful and moving. And so Amy finishes all three episodes of Tosh's life, and we finished the third one, and 2 days later, Tosh passes away in his sleep. And so that was just, that was unreal. And so we share these videos with his family, and the priest who's doing his memorial. And so I actually get to go to his memorial, and the feature of the whole event was his final story, where he reflects on love and life and family, and how satisfied he is with his entire life, and how he couldn't have asked for anything more, and he's done everything he ever wanted to do. And so to have him speak at his own memorial was extremely powerful, and brought everyone to tears, and was just happy tears, because they get to hear from this incredible man. And so it ends, and the family comes over to me and is like, where did this come from? Why did this happen? Like, what is this? And they were so thankful. They said literally that was the best gift we could have ever received. Thank you so much. I don't know how to repay you. That was just such a treasure for us. And so I kept in touch with his granddaughter, and still do. And she still tells me that she still watches the videos of Tosh whenever she misses him, or just wants that little bit of inspiration from her grandfather. So that's when I realized it's bigger than just creating these cool, interesting documentaries, but it goes well beyond that, and will continue to have a legacy beyond even this generation.
Yeah, I actually watched at least 2 of those videos of his, and his laughter was very, very infectious. We
actually did a Tosh laugh reel, because he had so many outbursts of laughter, and it was like, anytime I heard him laugh, I also at least chuckled a little bit. And so I half made it for myself, because I was like, oh my gosh, anytime I'm feeling down or anything, I'm just going to watch this video of Tosh laughing. But we actually sent it to his family too. And yeah, they loved it.
That's so amazing. And even just Angie retelling a very brief overview of his story is so powerful. And then to hear the unfortunate events of him passing shortly after, what that must mean to that family. There cannot be words. That is invaluable, purely and truly. Mm-hmm. I imagine that the people being interviewed, it must mean a lot to them as well. Have you had any feedback on that?
Yeah. So at first, actually, to be honest, when we tell them about the videos that we want to film them, I think they get a little uncomfortable or confused. They're like, I don't understand why you want to video me. I don't have a story to tell. I don't know. And all of them are so humble. They just don't think that they have anything to say. And so getting over that hump is hard. But once we actually get there with the equipment, and before that, we even do a little pre-interview discussion to kind of get to know each other and answer any questions and get some topic ideas. And so that kind of alleviates a little bit of the pressure. But then we get there with the equipment, and once they start talking and forget about the camera, they get so into it, and they just won't stop talking. They're just like, oh my gosh, and this story and that story and this. And in the end, they just are so thankful that someone just wanted to listen to their story and cared so deeply about what they were saying. And I think at that point is when it really registers with them, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool to have. And I mean, just the response when they get to watch the video, I mean, sometimes they're like, oh my God, is that what I look like? But don't we all do that?
I feel like that would be one of the biggest things that if I was I definitely want to do this for my grandparents. And I feel like one of the biggest things that would be hard for me when pitching this to them, when asking them if they'd be interested, is that they would be humble and they would say, I don't know if that's something I would like. But it sounds like, having a professional come in, especially if you're there, or at very least you're helping coach about what to ask, how to ask, and the general process. It sounds like you kind of have that down. And it sounds like you've talked to a lot of people, and it's really helped you hone those skills in. Right.
Yeah, for sure. And if people are interested in doing it themselves, or they're like, wait, but I'm really tight with my mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, I want to do this interview. And you can totally do that. And we have another option for people that prefer that instead of having us come in. It's called a remote option. And you can do it from anywhere, and we send you a little interview kit. And, but yeah, no, it's interesting pitching it to someone. I think that might be a hurdle that some people have to overcome, and we're going to coach on that and create a little tutorial video on how to have that conversation. But really it's just about honoring them. So really just proposing it as like, hey, Grandma Jean, you have the coolest stories. You're awesome. I love you. I really just want to capture those stories because I want to hear them forever. And I would love it if I could honor you by, filming it. And just something pretty simple that's kind of a gift to them, and you recognize how amazing they are and how important they are in your life.
Yeah, I'll say too, because I wanted to do it for my grandparents, obviously. And so they actually took quite a bit of convincing. I mean, they definitely love me and want to support me in my business, but they also, I think, are a little camera shy. And so I finally convinced them, and then afterwards, they were so happy they did it. And I think it's almost therapeutic in a way because like they were saying that with the questions that I was asking, they didn't even realize how much they actually remembered. They were like, "Oh my gosh, I hadn't thought about that thunderstorm in 1954 and so long, and I didn't even know it was in my brain." But a lot of the information that you kind of collect over the years does stay in your brain, and whether you realize it or not. And it was kind of cool for them to be able to remember those things.
It's very interesting for like me thinking about this because like there's so many people out there, and from our point of view, they're just people, but every person has a story, and don't have a story, but they probably have like a very interesting story. Like there's all these facets to their life that just kind of pop out of nowhere, and to really get talking to them, you're like, really? That happened? It's crazy to think about.
And on top of that, the lessons that they must have to teach us outside of just telling their story must be huge.
Yeah, that's actually a big part of why we're doing what we're doing, and part of the passion behind it is we feel that it's just so important to have kind of intergenerational communities in our society, and we feel like we can really benefit from that, and the passing on from stories from generation to generation. That's something that's kind of lost in our society right now, I think. Especially with Google, if you ever have a question, you can just type it in and get the answer instantaneously. But with our grandparents' generation, they have lessons for us that we can't Google and that we don't even know are there until we talk to them. And so that's one thing that we're really pushing to do, is to like help facilitate that passing on of stories from generation to generation within families, but then also kind of in general too, like throughout the world. We have this one facet of our business called Short Stories, where we take different parts of the interview that might be historically or socially relevant in the world, and we ask the client to sign off on them, and then we can make a 1 to 2 minute video to post on our website. And that's where we kind of have like a living history archive. And yeah, that's something that we're hoping to continue to build out, to continue to pass on these incredible stories that these people have.
I know on the website you guys have some of the full documentaries, such as Tosh's, but you're saying that you also have some 1 to 2 minute clips that are relevant to specific topics.
Yeah, so actually we don't have any full documentaries. Tosh's is an exception to the rule, I would say, because his story kind of naturally fell into 3 segments, and that was actually before we put a 1 to 2 minute cap on the videos, because we realized that that's kind of more along the lines of what people wanted to listen to
On the promotional videos. Not on the documentary itself.
Oh,
right?
correct. Yeah. Yeah. For the client's video, it's usually 20 to 30 minutes. But on these videos that we post online, they're now 1 to 2 minutes long. But yeah, back, Tush was one of our first clients. And so I think his ran around 7 minutes. But yeah, so that's where they all live. And we hope to continue to grow that and to share that with the world.
So if people want to see a snippet of what you guys have done, seeing Tosha's story and some of these other videos that were made, it'll only take them about a minute or two per video, and they can get kind of an idea of some of the things that they might be able to expect.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great example of what we do. I would say the longer documentaries that we give to the clients definitely run to be more personal. There's a lot more family stories in there. But in general, if you want to get a sense of the format that we use, online, those little clips are great.
I will add that they have a very nice website, very easy to navigate, very easy to find everything you could look for with that website.
That is all, Angie. Props to you, girl.
And the link to that website will be in the description of this episode, and there'll also be we'll host that on our Facebook as well. So the final product is 20 to 30 minutes. How long is the interview process?
Angie, you can take that
so
one.
that is about 90 minutes to 2 hours, depending. We kind of keep it free-flowing a little bit. There's a good story, we want to keep it going. But that's typically sort of the cap. And that's the same for the remote option, too. If you're going to film it yourself, we ask that footage be about 2 hours max, too. But then we do a little, for the professional option, we do a little 15-minute phone call before, and then the interview for about 2 hours, and then you just wait for the final cut.
So could you walk me through what the process is? Let's say that I decided I wanted to use you guys' service, and let's start with, I'm in the Seattle area. I want you to come and be the one to present this to a loved one, and to handle pretty much everything. What would the process be?
Sure. So we try and make it as easy as possible. So we have a little intake form on our website, like a sign-up form that you can fill out, and it submits right to us, and we get back to you to set up a time for a brief intro call. You can also just straight email us, and we can take it from there and do the intake form over email. And that just gives us kind of a general guide for like some topic ideas and names and contact information and stuff like that. It's pretty quick. And then set up a 15-minute call. And then from there, we set up the time for the interview where I will come with all the stuff. And you don't have to do anything except help me find a time that works. And then we set up the space and find where we want to situate ourselves and set up the lighting and all that, do the interview. And then it takes, for the professional option, 4 to 6 weeks for the final product. We also leave an envelope with the client to provide us with photos that would be relevant to the story. And so those are then shipped to us, or we pick them up from you. And those are also included in the final video. And so that's kind of the final piece that we request, because it really adds a lot. And then we can also create a little photo slideshow as another chapter on the DVD with all the photos that you do send us. So it's sort of like digitizing those precious photos that you send us.
Once somebody's made a decision that they want to go forward and have you help them make this amazing creation, it's you talk to the client over the phone for 15 minutes or so, and then pick a day, come film, edit, and then they get their product within 6 to 8 weeks. That's actually really quick for a production. So that's really impressive, actually.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, that pretty much nailed it. Yeah.
And it sounds really simple too. I like the pre-interview where you get a chance to kind of break the ice over the phone and talk to them before you come in with all of this professional equipment, lights and cameras and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be intimidating off the bat. Like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm going to shine a light in your face.
So the final product, is it just a video of you and the person, the client, talking back and forth for 30 minutes?
Yeah, I'm not included in the video. Like, no, it's just them talking. So we kind of prep them on how to answer questions, but it's really, we can work with it however it happens. It's one cut, so we work with it and we make it sound as nice as possible. And I'm not in it. You don't know I'm there necessarily. So
yeah, Angie does a really good job too at kind of pulling the story out of people, the way she phrases her questions. And so I think on her end, she does kind of some of this making of the story for the person and pulling out the story from them. And then from my end, I usually just take the raw footage and then see what comes of it. And we don't have a defined mold or anything for each person. We kind of just see what comes out of it and then pull the story from there.
I love that, because it's not you guys trying to make them fit into a mold. It's you guys creating something based off of who they are as a person.
Exactly.
And that makes it so personable and such an amazing final product.
Yeah. There's a lot of beauty in kind of the off the cuff sort of thing. Like, that's an honest, authentic conversation. Like, I'm really just getting to know them essentially. And I try and make them as comfortable as possible, and to try and forget about the camera and not worry about anything except just sharing their story. So, yeah.
Standing. I can't say it enough. I love what you guys are doing, for sure.
Thank you.
Now, you're based in Seattle, so if they want the professional option, they have to be in or around Seattle within a reasonable distance. And, of course, we record from New Hampshire. So talk to me about what options I have.
Yeah, sure. So I'll take that one. So we actually have a couple different options for people outside of Seattle. The first option is what Angie mentioned, which is our remote option. And to get a little bit more into details about that, what we do is we'll send a package to the client, which is typically someone in our generation or our parents' generation. And it'll include a camera phone, which is usually like a refurbished iPhone or Samsung, and a tripod, and a lavalier microphone, as well as an instructions manual. And so we send that out, and basically all the client needs to worry about is setting up a time with Grammy or Grandpa or Mom and Dad, and you just follow the directions that we've outlined and sit down and have a conversation with your loved one. Ship back all of the items, and then we edit your video from there.
So you've taken all of the guesswork out of production and made it extremely simple. You send me a package, I use the camera and the tripod and the mic. All of them have straightforward directions, and you even are, from what I understand, you guys are available for any consultation that might be necessary. How do I start this conversation?
Oh, definitely. In the instructions manual, we actually have a list of questions that are good to start with to kind of get the conversation rolling. A lot of times people might start with that, but then, the conversation might meander different ways, and they kind of do their own thing. But yeah, we definitely try to make it as turnkey, ready to go as possible, to kind of cut down on any stress on the client's end.
And then you guys do all of the editing.
Yes.
When everything's sent back.
Yeah.
Wow, that's outstanding. So it takes, basically, you're just having a conversation, or in this case, I would be having just a conversation with my grandparents, and the creation would be something that lives forever.
Right. Yeah. Angie, were you going to say something?
Oh no, we also will provide support. Like, we'll know when you're going to do the interview, and so we'll be there if you need to call us or text us or ask us if the setup looks right or whatever it is. So yeah, we'll provide that as well.
Yeah, and so then we also have the second option for people outside of Seattle, or people in Seattle too, I guess, which is a kind of DIY option where you can go to our website and download instructions on how to do everything A to Z, and you can just do it yourself.
Oh, wow. So if people just are like, I love this idea, I don't really know where to start, but I know I could do it myself, you guys give them exactly what to do on their own.
Right, yeah, or if they don't have the funds for it, or exactly if they just, would rather do it themselves. I think the important part is, the passing on of those stories. So that's kind of what we, really work to facilitate doing.
So to have a production like this, and to have somebody who's a professional editor come in, and somebody who's and a pair of people who this is what they do, that sounds like something that honestly I wouldn't really be able to afford. We're probably talking about like a couple $1,000s, right?
No, actually, we currently are charging $450, right, Ange?
Yep, $450 for the professional and $250 for the remote option.
Wait.
Yeah.
For $450, if I'm in the Seattle area, you'll come to my grandparents' house, interview them, take all of the footage, edit it, and give me both a digital version and a DVD copy that I can give to my children.
Yeah, it sounds too good, right? There's no catch, but the catch is that you should get in now, because the rates are not going to stay that low as our business grows. So, now's the time to do it. It's extremely affordable at this rate now.
And did you say $250 if they want to just do the video recording and questions themselves? You'll send them all of the equipment, do all of the editing, and they'll still get an amazing final product?
Yes,
right.
That
correct.
is that blows my mind, to be honest with you. So they can see some examples of what you've done on your website. Where else can they find you?
We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram.
And they should just be looking for Life Capsule?
Life Capsule Productions, I think, is what we have it on, right?
Yep. And then our website is lifecapsulepro.com.
Okay, and obviously we'll have links for all of that stuff in the description. Make it as easy as possible for people to find you. And any listeners out there who are thinking about this, who might be interested, capitalize. Now's the time. Get on board. What these girls are doing is amazing. The final product is outstanding, and there's really no way to put a value to capturing the essence of your loved one forever. Like that's what really hits home with me, is that like I know that being able to have my grandparents' stories. I remember my grandfather had some of the best stories about how he used to defend people back in his high school days, and one time he almost fell and killed himself on a pitchfork, and all these amazing stories. And I don't have any kids right now, but when I do, I want to be able to give them that, and this is such a unique opportunity to do something.
Yeah, I find it's cool to even think about it in the shoes of someone like my great-grandchildren, like being able to get to know their great-great-great-grandmother. Like, I just think that is so cool, and, such a huge reason to continue on with this project.
My grandfather talks about his parents all the time, but if I was able to see them and actually hear their stories, that I can't even imagine. That would mean so much to me.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah, it kind of builds up your identity, right? And like you kind of understand where you came from when you get to hear the voices of people before you. Yeah,
absolutely. And that obviously they have stories and they have lessons that are valuable to everybody, let alone your own family.
Yeah, definitely.
So now I'm going to ask the tough question. All of our listeners here, I'm sure they're at very least interested in what's going on. What sort of a special deal are you going to offer my listeners?
Yeah, so I'll take it.
Nothing. I'm kidding. No, we're going to offer 10% to anyone who mentions your podcast.
Okay. This is unbelievable, guys.
Yeah, believe it.
It's
happening.
If there's ever a time to jump on something, if you're interested at all, at very least, reach out to the girls, and ask questions. And
share this podcast.
Yeah.
With your friends, because then they can get the deal, and it helps your guys' amazing venture as well, because this podcast is incredible and should have a giant listenership.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much.
So I think a good note to end on would be actually talking about or kind of telling a story or a life lesson from a older person in our lives or that we've seen, or maybe even you guys have interviewed. So, Amy, you want to start with a story?
One person that we interviewed, she said something that really stuck with me, and that was, it's easier to regret what you have done than what you haven't done, so just do it and regret it later. And that really stuck with me in the moment, especially because, well, she was one of the first people that we interviewed, and we were obviously very, very early on in this whole process, and me and Angie were kind of struggling on, like, who do we tell about this, or do we tell anyone about this? Like, what if they steal our idea? Or, like, we were just really unsure about, what to do, or, like, how far do we dive into this? And then I heard that towards the end of her interview, and I was like, oh, thanks, Martha. Like, I will just do it and regret it later. Like, you can't, you can't, like, sometimes you just have to dive in and do it. And so far, I have not regretted it. So, yeah.
That's outstanding. Nate, you posed the question. Was there something that came to your mind that pertained to that?
Yeah, well, it's a story my grandfather told me a while ago. And I wasn't too close to my grandfather. I knew him. We kind of talked every once in a while. But this is like the one story he told me where it kind of stuck with me. And he was telling me about how there was a bully at school when he was younger, and this bully was huge, and like he always just beat up on people. Like, this is back in the day where bullies could do that, and he was beating up on his group of friends, and they could never beat him. They always tried to just resist and kind of fight back against him, but never worked. And then one day, my grandfather came up with a great idea. He's like, he's tall and everything, but he's got a weak base. If we attack the legs, we can topple him. And so the next time this bully kind of beat up on them, they just kind of knocked him over with the legs. Like, one person got behind and the other pushed and everything, and they never had that bully problem anymore. So
that's awesome.
That's a lesson to you kids.
So the lesson you learned was to tackle low.
No problem is too big to overcome with others.
There you go.
We're generally, it's like...
It's your one life lesson. That's
big good. People are top heavy.
If you have a problem, like a problem, you gotta attack it strategically. You gotta think about it and kind of handle it with maybe cooperation, or just kind of find a weak point and do it that way.
There you go. That's a good one.
You're like, don't sugarcoat things. Like, to tackle them at the foundation, maybe.
Ooh.
Like something like that.
Well stated.
That's what I was going for. What better? Now, Angie, do you happen to have a life lesson story?
Yeah, it's not someone we interviewed recently, but it was actually my grandmother, because she's sort of the person that has spearheaded this, honestly, I think. And so let me just tell a little story about how I know that she's kind of our guide on this whole journey. She, and among many things, let me start that sentence over. There have been many moments, like serendipitous moments, and I feel like she's kind of been there. And one, when I just started out with this idea, and I was just Google searching, I literally Google searched documentary films for seniors. Like, that was it, into Google search. And then the second result, I clicked on it. And I opened the page and I scroll a little bit down, and there's my grandmother's face on the page. I was like, I just died. I didn't know what happened. I was like, wait, my grandma never had a computer, I don't know that she's ever in any film. Like, why is she on the internet? Why am I looking at her face? Like, she's not even alive anymore. Like, so many questions. And, it was like, oh my God, hey Grammy, like, you're definitely a supporter of this. She was actually in a documentary about senior wisdom back in New England, and none of our family members knew about it. And so I shared this really cool video, actually, and so that's when I knew that she was girls, you need to do this. Like, this is important, and I'm giving you my support.
Yeah, she supported us through a lot of our projects. I feel like she was like such a driving force in our childhood.
And totally judging us for being such weirdos.
Yeah, no, she probably thought we were two of the strangest children, but she like supported us anyway. Yeah, everything.
Yeah, and so my takeaway from her and my life lesson from her is, because she was a very spiritual woman, was and this is actually kind of our family motto now. Like, our whole family, we made all these signs, and like we put like pieces of Grammy's wisdom around, and the quote that we use from her is "just love." And as cheesy as it sounds, it's actually super powerful, because I think it alleviates a lot of stress and animosity and hatred in the world, and especially in a time like today, if you can just strip everything away and just focus on how we're all human and we're all on this journey together, and we're all trying to just get by, and just, if we can just love one another and see each other at just that sense, then I think we'll all be happier and have a better journey together.
That's so concise and really a beautiful sentiment in general. I think that's something that everybody should hear.
Now, Steve, we're all looking at you now.
Oh God, the pressure's on.
Yeah. I mean, that was a beautiful, riveting story. Now, you have to top that. Or at least match it.
All right. Well, usually I talk about dicks, so I'll try and avoid that this time. Wow, this is...
I feel like you
that was a really
should
bad
talk
segue.
about dicks. End it on
that was a really
you should end it on a
segue.
lighthearted note.
That was the worst segue I've
Tell a
ever
joke.
had.
What's your
So my
favorite
late
joke or something,
right? So the last conversation I ever had with my mom's mom, my grandmother, we were talking about angels, and she was saying how she believes in angels, and I was kind of questioning that, because I was very interested in that. That seems a bit out there to me. But and I said, have you ever seen an angel? What makes? And she said, no, I've never seen one myself, but I know people who have. And I asked her, like, what makes you believe in angels if you've never seen them? Like, that seems kind of ridiculous. And she said, well, just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's not there. If you can feel it, then it has a profound impact on you, and that makes it exist. And to me, that just like hit home, and it's held with me ever since, on just a deep down like level.
Wow. That is powerful. Nice.
Definitely better than a dick joke.
I don't know. Both have their place.
Well, sometimes I have really good dick jokes. So I want to, on that note, I want to thank you guys for coming on, and for the service that you guys provide. I think that it's revolutionary, and I think that it has a lot to offer, not just people, but society as a whole on a much bigger level. And I really look forward to seeing you guys keep moving forward with this and changing lives.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you guys for having us.
Oh, not a problem.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's been really fun talking to you guys, and thank you so much for your support and everything. It's a cool conversation to have. So thank you.
And something I want to put out there. Seniors, we need to talk. Did you love the episode? Give us a rating on iTunes. Also, follow us at Twitter at WNTT1 or Facebook at We Need to Talk Show. We have a Patreon which you can donate to. That'd be very, very lovely. And you'll just get in touch with us. Tell us what you think of the episode, and so on and so forth. Also, be sure to visit our friends here, LifeCapsulePro.com, and also the TBC Network.